Lesson 12. Prana. Prana? What is prana? Ever heard of pranayama? It's widely practiced as breath control, breathing exercises.
Life. Prana means life.
Prana is energy, but not just energy. It's vital energy. In Korea, you call it ki, energy. In Chinese, you call it qi, energy. It's not just energy, it's vital energy. It has a special quality. In lesson 19, we will start pranayama, but we will not do breathing exercises. We will do energy control, because that's what pranayama really is. Breathing exercises are good, but different. And you will start to see the logic also. And I will explain also why pranayama cannot be breathing exercises, simply because if you follow the instructions as in chapter 2 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and you do that in the form of breath control, you would simply die. Impossible. It's really impossible. We will come to that. Today we have the introduction of prana. Now I mentioned, probably more than once, that traditional yoga books have no physical anatomy. Not one chapter, not one paragraph on physical anatomy. And the reason for that is that the underlying cause of the physical anatomy is energy. If the underlying cause is in a good condition, the physical anatomy is in a good condition. So no need to pay attention to that. It's a concept you find in all forms of traditional medicine. Disease leads to symptoms. Modern medicine has a tendency to treat the symptoms, but not the cause of the disease, which is always to be found in the energy circulation, in the energy household. Yoga does have anatomy. We call it subtle anatomy. It's the anatomy of energy. First of all, everybody has heard of chakras. Chakras are energy bodies. Muladhara Chakra, Svadhisthana Chakra, Manipura Chakra, Anahata, Vishuddhi. You see in the drawing that Ajna Chakra is not a circle. I usually draw it as a circle because it's also the mental body. Ajna Chakra in the model is drawn as the third eye in the center of the head. And the Crown Chakra is drawn as a flame, the seventh chakra. The flame is, of course, symbol for light, enlightenment. Enlightenment is one of those concepts that many people think that is just the highest level of spirituality that we will never reach. No, wrong. If you practice yoga regularly, the Crown Chakra becomes fueled with energy from the bottom. The light turns on. Consciousness awakens, and from that moment on, continuously, gradually expands. That is enlightenment. Maybe not in a perfect form, but there is no perfection. So what are chakras? I think I did explain what chakras are, right? You go to a hospital, you ask a surgeon to, I have pain in my Manipura chakra, please. Then the surgeon will open up your belly and look for Manipura chakra, and he will say, there's nothing. I can see nothing there. Because a chakra is a wheel of energy. It's a ball of energy. Where does that ball of energy come from? Because the question is, are they real? Do they exist? Yes. Everything is energy. The hard disk of your organism is in your head. The brain is the computer of your whole body, responsible for all the functions, controlling all the functions through impulses, through pulses of light, pulses of energy, which go through the nerves. The nerves are like internet cables coming from the brain, going down through the spine. That's why the spine is a protection of this cable, the nerve system. So through the center of the spine goes this cable of nerves that at the level of the throat, a subcable separates from the main cable to take care of the functions there. So pulses of energy from the brain come to the throat and enable us to speak, to swallow, and also to hear. It is at that point in the spine where that subcable separates from the main cable that occurs a field of energy because of that bundle of nerves coming out of the spine. That field of energy is what we call a chakra, and the same happens around the level of the heart, where another sub-bundle separates from the main cable of nerves and is responsible for the heart, for the lungs, for the diaphragm, etc., etc. Each chakra has its very distinct functions, physically, but also psychologically. So that we will discuss in detail next week, where every class we will discuss only one chakra in a very detailed way. Now, energy consists out of two polarities. We call them the plus and the minus, the Shiva and the Shakti, the yin and the yang, Adam and the Eve, the feminine, the masculine. And those two energies symbolically flow through each of their own channel. The Shakti energy comes from the bottom, winds its way around the chakras, going up, while Shiva energy comes from the top, winds its way around the chakras, going down. And that energy symbolically flows into the underworld river called Styx. If you ever heard of Styx, used to be a very popular band in the 70s with beautiful music, sometimes noisy. This motto you see on the front of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, but the editor of the handouts has been so friendly to put even two of those models there. Now what you are looking at is very interesting, because you see something that you don't only see in yoga. If you would draw a snake head here and a snake head there, What are you looking at? Familiar?
Yes.
It's called an Aesculapus. That is Latin language for the symbol that you find all over the world on the side of every ambulance, on the entrance of every hospital or clinic. You find the symbol of the Aesculapus, which is exactly the same as the model in yoga. So let's just stick to yoga. We can study medicine or history of medicine another time. The channel through which Shiva energy flows down is called Ida. The channel through which Shakti energy flows up is called Pingala. You don't have to memorize this, but it's very easy to memorize. Ida sounds like a female name, a girl name. It's the channel responsible for Shiva, the feminine energy. You already know the concept. Ida and Pingala, when they are not in balance, there is no harmony. The goal of yoga is to bring about harmony, which then leads to the manifestation of a third channel. That channel, its symbolism, look, there are two channels here, we call them Ida and Pingala, but the reality is there are 72,000 channels in your body, approximately. So this is symbolical, but very easy to understand. If you look at the model, also in the Aesculapus, the model in your handout or on the front of your Hatha Yoga Pradipika, there is a third channel right in the center, which in most people does not manifest because there is no harmony between Shiva and Shakti. There is no sattva. But when sattva occurs, a kind of magical phenomenon takes place. You know that energy, as long as it is unstable, condenses and manifests toward the bottom, from energy to gas to liquid to solid matter. That is a constant process in the universe and in the human being. When harmony occurs, however, the energy doesn't condense further. On the contrary, we kind of reverse that natural process that we find all over in the universe of this condensation. When Sushumna Nadi opens up, energy starts to rise. And it is that energy that is responsible for all the wonderful benefits, effects promised in the yoga books. And those promises are sometimes, they sound too good to be true, but if you practice yoga correctly, they all manifest. It is the difference between primordial animal life and civilized human being. Because those chakras all have very particular functions. The three chakras below the diaphragm, I mentioned them already, earth, water and fire. The lower emotions and desires, which ones we will talk about after, starting from next week. Lower emotions and desires. Our deepest animal instincts are located here. Fear, desire, sexuality, ambition, all characteristics that allow us to survive in a dangerous world. That is the function of fear, that is the function of sexuality, that's the function of desire and ambition. So we need those emotions, we need those lower emotions and desires, but they become a huge impediment, they become dangerous if we have no control over them. The control over them takes place on higher levels of consciousness. Above the diaphragm, there are two chakras, and we call those higher emotions and desires. Love, empathy, compassion, care, but also creativity, expression, located in these two chakras. We call them higher emotions and desires. The first thing that happens when you start practicing yoga, already in the very early beginning stages of your practice, is that you breathe through the diaphragm and you indeed become more sensitive. You become more considerate towards other family members, towards people around you, colleagues, neighbors, society at large. It's a natural development that already finds place in the beginning of your practice. Then you have the intellect, which is already hugely developed in the modern human being, most modern human beings, through almost 20 years, or sometimes more than 20 years of compulsory education. But pushed so far that there is a total disarray, there is total imbalance caused by that among the chakras. And the crown chakra, of course, that's the ultimate goal. The crown chakra is outside the body and manifests through the heart. The heart is kind of the representative of the crown chakra. So not only unconditional love, compassion, empathy are located there, but vision, wisdom, deep insight, intuition, all characteristics of the crown chakra. And you will already, from the moment that you start practicing, you already start noticing glimpses of functioning in the crown chakra. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's nothing that seems out of reach for a beginner. It already becomes active in the beginning. Of course, the flashes of light are dim in the beginning, but along the way, with your increasing practice, that light becomes brighter and brighter. Now, first about this issue with Shiva and Shakti, to get that out of the way. This is the Hatha Yoga Pradipika chapter 3, which deals with the mudras. Sutra 104 introduces the mudra called Shakti Kalana. Kutilanga, Kutilangi, Kundalini, Bhujangi, Shakti, Ishvari, Kundalini, and Arundhati are all synonymous words. Did you catch what this is about? This is symbolical language to reinforce a concept. the concept here is Kundalini, which is symbolically a snake that sleeps at the bottom of the spine and is awakened by yoga practice. That is the energy that rises. The snake is the energy that rises up through Sushumna Nadi, the third channel. In this list of words that is equal to Kundalini is Shakti. Kutilangi, Kundalini, Bhujangi, which is a snake, Bhujang. Shakti is the fourth one. Not Shiva, Shakti, which is a female, but represents Shakti, energy, the energy rising from the bottom up, the masculine energy, or Kundalini. In a stronger form, Shakti is in fact Kundalini. A turbocharged Shakti is Kundalini. Sutra 106, the great goddess, not God, the great goddess Kundalini sleeps, closing with her mouth the entrance to the way by which the seat of Brahman, the Crown Chakra, where there is no pain, is to be reached. The great goddess Kundalini, not a god, male, but a female, a goddess. The process that I described here is described in this sutra. The energy from the bottom, which is asleep, is awakened by Shakti Kalani, the mudra. That energy, in symbolical language, closing with her mouth the entrance to the way by which the seat of Brahman, which is the Crown Chakra, where there is no pain, is to be reached, is to be fueled, is to be activated. Sutra 107, the Kundalini Shakti, who sleeps above the Kanda, gives liberation to yogins and bondage to the ignorant. He who knows her knows yoga. Kundalini Shakti, not Kundalini Shiva because it's a male god, Kundalini Shakti. Need I say more? Sutra 108, let's leave it at that. The Kundalini is described as being coiled like a serpent. He who causes that Shakti to move from the Muladhara upwards becomes free. He who causes that Shakti to move becomes free without a doubt. No doubt about it that our theory is correct. The text is 100% clear about it. There are more sutras, by the way. By seizing the tail, that sleeping serpent Kundalini should be awakened. Then the Shakti, throwing off her sleep, rises up with force. I'm done with that part. Very important. Yoga traditionally is a process of initiation. A person who is properly initiated into yoga knows this. This about Shiva and Shakti. What does it show? There are so many people with diplomas who have the title of yoga teacher or master who have not been initiated, who do not know these secrets that make the difference between a real initiated one or not initiated. Anyway, it's very important that you remember this, make note of this. Kundalini starting on page 2, I kind of explained it already. The snake symbolically sleeping at the bottom. We call it dormant potential, dormant energy. Dormant, every person possesses this potential. Tragically, the conditions do not allow that potential to awaken and empower our consciousness. That is where yoga comes in. The old wise men and women of the past understood how this worked, and many centuries, thousands of years of experimentation and contemplation on the issue led them to develop the system of yoga that is very direct and powerful to bring this about. That is why I'm so passionate about teaching yoga correctly. I can make much more money if I teach Vinyasa yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and what have you. I'm not interested. It's nothing to me. This is really valuable. People have no idea what a treasure this is if it is presented correctly. So Kundalini is the force that rises up if the condition is right. It's like walking on a tightrope. You understand what that means, non-native English speakers? A tightrope is a rope between 2 points, and a person is walking on that rope trying not to lose balance. Yoga is like a walk on a tightrope. Life, in fact, is like a walk on a tightrope. And if you lose control, you fall off your rope and you hurt yourself. So we need to find this balance, and basically yoga gives us a framework that really is not complicated, really is not difficult. All it requires is dedication, regular practice. And it affects you before you even realize it. From the very first moment that you do one yoga exercise is already going to work. I added this interesting anecdote on page 3, and it's subtitled The Secret of Seduction. Shiva and Shakti, the secret of seduction. An initiated yogi should know this story too, because it is one of those stories from an ancient past that was told to explain in a symbolical way why Shiva represents feminine energy, not masculine energy. And it's a very nice anecdote. Shiva is the lord of dance. Masculinity is rajas, is movement. So Shakti, if she wants attention from Lord Shiva, she starts to dance in front of him. She goes on the same wavelength of him to draw his attention. And vice versa, when Shakti when Lady Shakti, I should say, desires attention from Lord Shiva, no, the other way around. When Lord Shiva desires attention from Lady Shakti, he goes onto her wavelength by being very gentle and soft and sweet. And why did we subtitle this the Secret of Seduction? Because it works exactly like that in daily life. If you meet some person of interest, skillful seducers, people who are very skillful and easy to pick up, a person of interest in a bar or in a wherever, in the street, or in the, these people are very skillful basically at doing what Shiva and Shakti do in this story. You draw somebody's attention by going onto the same wavelength, and you kind of lure them into your web, like a spider catching a fly, by pretending to be sympathetic with them. That's what this anecdote basically is about. It's not only the gods and the goddesses do that. Human beings function in exactly the same way. It is the secret of seduction. To be a good seducer, you must develop the skill to be on another person's wavelength. Talk about something that you think they are very interested in, for example. So people usually do that intuitively. It's not something that you can just learn from a book. It's something that you do based on intuition, feeling, sticking out your antennas and sensing. Good. Questions? Many of the things of this subject have been repeated over and over because it is crucial. It is really what yoga is about. It's not about perfect pose, not about muscle toning and what have you, dieting. Yeah, there are many nice side benefits from your yoga practice. You do indeed change your body and your strength and your health and what have you. But essentially, it starts with energy. And if the energy is good, the rest is good. Prana, vital energy, if you read those scriptures, you will see that there are in fact many sutras that promise eternal life. Now, eternal life, there are no examples of people getting older than 120. But there is a very big difference between people who possess vital energy and people who don't. And the majority of the people around you, when you walk in the street and you look around, or in a shop and you look around, or in your own family or friend circle, the majority of the people are lacking vital energy. So there is no light in the Crown Chakra, deeper consciousness. The heart is not functioning because that requires vital energy. That requires that energy rises up from the bottom and fuels those higher chakras. You know Desmond Tutu, bishop, South African bishop Desmond Tutu? Do you know the Dalai Lama from Tibet? They are best friends. They are also old, in their 80s. Have you ever seen them? Have you ever seen them being together? They are like little children. They're dancing with their dresses on, they're dancing and giggling and pranking each other, joking. Really. What is that? That is vital energy. Do you see your grandmom or your granddad like that? Most likely not. There are some exceptions. But it's all about energy. In the same way, you can have a teenager totally lacking vital energy, kind of behaving like an 80-year-old person. And many young people are, because they are. They're just lacking enthusiasm and happiness and joy And often adults are, of course, responsible for that because we don't give them enough time to play or to do what they feel attracted to. But that is energy. And one of the things that we need to learn here, or that you need to learn from me, is that you focus on those things that stimulate vital energy. It's things that make you enthusiastic, things that make you happy or passionate. Vice versa, when you focus on things that you dislike or hate, your energy will crash. But the problem is, there are many things in life that we dislike, but we can't avoid. How do you deal with that? They are duties and responsibilities. And as a sensitive, conscious person, you cannot just neglect those duties and responsibilities because it harms other people. How do you deal with that in light of this? How do you turn that energy being dragged down into energy actually rising up? You do that by seeing your duties and responsibilities in the light of where you want to be in the future. Raising a family is hard, but the more time passes, the more joy you receive from that, and you invest the duties and the responsibilities to bring that about. And if you keep that in mind time and time again when you grumble, it will just it will lift your spirit. Going to work. If you follow your path as a yogi, you're still with your feet in the normal world where bills have to be paid. And the food, the grocery bills have to be paid so that you have food on your table. So you're going to a job, an office, a workplace, a factory where you don't really want to be. You deal with that in the same way. Because when you function from your heart, which yogis do more and more with time passing, you develop a vision, you develop a wish for where you want to be further down the road. 20 years later, 30 years later, you develop a picture of where you want to go with your life. That boring work or that inspiration-killing job where you have to go every day is only a tool to get there. And when you do this in this way, you will see that you will not stay stuck there. People who have no vision of the future, where they want to be 30 years from now, they often stay stuck in the same workplace until retirement. There is no sparkle, no inspiration, no hope, no dream, no wish, just grinding through the motions, day by day. There is no energy there is no vision there. So they strongly believe that this is just the way it is. I have to accept that life is just like this. But a yogi develops a vision, develops hope for the future, and a kind of an ideal picture where you want to go with everything in life. And when you live on those higher levels of consciousness, you have hope, you have courage, you have vision, you have a dream, a wish. Naturally, things will come your way that lead to an evolution, to a growth, towards where you want to be in 30 years. So you continue to dutifully do your job day in, day out, but with hope in your heart. And that energy of you is radiating, and it will connect with other radiating energies. And sooner or later, the telephone rings and somebody says, hey, we need a person with this and this kind of skill. How about you join us? And you say, wow, that is nice. And you move on. You go to the next step. Also not the ideal thing, but at least you have a feeling that things are evolving, that things are developing, growing. And that is where, as a yogi, you get your motivation from when you deal with those things that have a tendency to bring energy down. The message here is focus on things that lift your spirit, that make you enthusiastic, that warm your heart, that make you happy, joyful. But if you live like that without any responsibility and duty, you're not going anywhere. Because life cannot be sustained without any discipline, without fulfilling duties and responsibilities. I didn't want to have 2 dogs. I vowed never to have a dog anymore. And the universe said, hey, you vowed never to have a dog anymore. Here you have 2. I just make jokes about that. But when they came, I knew what I had to do. Not what I wanted to do, what I have to do. And it elevates my spirit. It makes me so happy. It brought me back to teaching yoga again. Nothing wrong with that, can there be? That is where the courage comes in. That is where the qualities that are required in the previous lecture come in. So I came to the conclusion that life in essence is not about what we want to do. You have a dream, you have a vision, but life is about what you have to do. And the universe will put things onto your path, and if there is a resonance with you, an attraction, a connection, you have to follow up on that. Otherwise, you will have sleepless nights, you will be full of worry, and you drag yourself down again. And worse, later, when time has passed, there will be regret, because you realize that you should have jumped on the occasion. So not easy. On the contrary, it is the most difficult way to choose to live your life. But it is also the most gratifying, the most rewarding. It's the road not taken, that only people with that quality dare to take. The rest all take the easy road, with no obstacles, no challenges, but also no vision, no promises. Just gray, no prana, no vital energy. And the instability and all the conflicts that come with the road not taken, the challenges, yoga gives us all the answers. Yoga gives us the framework to help us to deal with all those obstacles and challenges. And always keep in mind, when there is failure, when there is suffering, conflict, misery, they are our teachers. They are not designed to just make us miserable like that. They are our teachers. The moment that you're hit, there is an emotion, you quickly have to go into another mode, into a mode where you ask yourself, hey, what's going on? Why is this happening? What did I do? Never point fingers, because that's futile, that's useless. What did I do that brought me here, that caused this? How am I involved in this? And you will learn enormous lessons, important, crucial lessons from being so honest with yourself. Okay, questions? Yes?
I have a question about Shiva and Shakti energy, and been over it a few times, and I guess I still don't understand why it's so important that we label them correctly with the female energy and the masculine energy.
Because it reflects the principle of balance. Shakti represents masculine energy, although she is female. Shiva represents feminine energy, although he is male. I am a man, or so I look physically, but I have feminine qualities. You look like a woman, but you have masculine qualities. Yin and yang, the dark side has a light eye and the light side has a dark eye. It all comes together. It's all the same symbolism. It's three-dimensional. I look masculine, but I can be in total harmony, in total balance. It's not that I'm masculine, that I will always be Rajas, always with Shakti domination, and you, because you are feminine, you will always be Tamas, always with Shiva domination. No, it's a mix of both. And that is what is reflected in that anecdote, or in that is how the ancient people communicated. But it is also the way that, ancient esoteric sciences, of which yoga is only one, are full of secrets. And the reason why they did that is they didn't want it to fall into hands of people who are not deserving of that empowerment, because they might use it for evil purposes. That is why still the stonemasons, the masons, the Freemasons, that culture, that cult, is still surrounded with a lot of mystery and secrets. So ancient people, they built in these kind of trapdoors, or booby traps, to check people's qualification, in fact. If you don't know how it works, then you're not deserving of studying with me or learning more about this science. Ask any yoga teacher, and you will see that most really just do not know this. But I showed you the Hatha Yoga Pradipika is unequivocal. How do you say that? Unequivocal, no doubt what is correct and what is not. I'm surprised you asked that question, because I think that those sutras really, really bring the message home.
I think I can understand the balance of feminine and masculine energies, but I think it's your force of strength in this labeling of it. And we were talking about true knowledge before, and it's something that I don't see how it connects to my, having the right labels manifests itself in the practice.
Yeah, but I would say try to approach this intuitively and not so much mentally. Because if you approach an esoteric science mentally, you get a headache. And honestly, most yoga books written by authorities in yoga, which are usually academics, are headaches. I've bought wonderful books that people said, you must have that book. There's authority in yoga, and I start reading, and I read the first 3 pages, and I scratch my head and I said, what was I reading there? So I go back to the first page and I start again, trying to read a little bit slower. And after 3 pages, I thought, man, this is going nowhere. This is just a headache. What is the message here? There's no practical information there. That's what I try to do. I try to, all the information, I try to translate the sutras also in a very practical way so that it directly applies to daily life, because that is what they are about. But you let loose a bunch of academic scientists on the Sanskrit texts, and the way that there's a lot of ego involved. They have to show. You see that in Buddhism also. Buddhist monks, Korean people know this. Buddhist monks, they use very difficult Chinese characters when they write their text. Why do they do that? Nobody understands it. Isn't their task to enlighten people, to inform people, use practical, simple language? No, they have to show how important they are with their complicated Chinese characters that even Chinese people don't know. I'm giving you a very strong example, but it's true. That is a tendency that many academics have. They want people to admire them for their academic prowess. It's a headache. I challenge you to read any serious yoga book. It's a headache. It's not going anywhere. I tried. They are somewhere in the corner gathering dust. Okay, let's have a short break.